Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning for who is based in America. It's a pleasure today to have the opportunity to have this conference on carbon footprints, and in particular on carbon footprints program operators and the label in connection with the communication of carbon footprints. We will have 5 panelists that I have the pleasure to introduce. I will do the first introductory presentation to present the Carbon Footprint Italy program. I will be followed by Andrea Volpato, is the head of Corporate Health and Safety Environment of Chiesi Group, Chiesi Pharmaceutical Group, and he will share the experience of Chiesi Pharmaceutici on carbon footprint of products. Then we will move from products to organization with Niccolo Alberti, Energy and Sustainability Specialist of Mani Group. Then we will take a short break for a tea break or coffee break from somebody. And after that, we will have the presentation of Juan David Duran Hernandez. He's leader of Eco Registry, is an important registry in South America. And he will explain more the situation in connection with the generation and trade of carbon credits. And finally, we will have Amy Holm of the Climate Registry. That is an interesting, important registry in North America, in California. It's based in California, but is operating in the west part of US and the US and Canada. She will give some. She will share experience on the registry focus on organization, but will be also the opportunity to discuss together on the mutual recognition. And finally, we have some time for a question and answer. So I may start with the first introductory presentation. Okay, I introduce myself. I'm the director of Carbon Footprint Italy. I'm also the CEO of Equilibria, that is a consultant and training company specialized in carbon management. I've been also the convener of the ISO working group that developed the ISO 14067, the standard dedicated to the carbon footprint of product. And recently, I've been appointed as a chair of the new technical committee on climate change of the European standardization body, SEN. And I also have some other experience in connection with accreditation with several accreditation bodies. Okay, but we start with the first consideration. We know carbon footprints as a way, an indicator to show the impact of product and organization on climate change. So we need to recognize there are 2 main, let me say, type of carbon footprint. The one in connection with the product is the ISO 14067, and 14064 part 1 is in connection with the organization. This is part of the generic concept of MRV, monitoring, reporting, and verification. That is the crucial aspects of the United Nations Framework of Climate Change Convention, UNFCCC. And in the context of ISO, this approach, monitoring, reporting, verification, has been expanded to accreditation. So we have monitoring, reporting, verification, and accreditation. For this reason, I like to introduce this diagram that is part of ISO 14067 standard. So you may recognize here on the top the standards that are applicable for organization. The first one is in connection with the product, CFP, carbon footprint of product, carbon footprint of organization, 64 part 1, and the one in connection with the project, that maybe is more in connection with the activity of Juan of Eco Registry. But this is applicable for the company, for the organization. And then we have another set of standards that are very interesting at a different level, applicable for the verification body. The first one is describing the verification methodology. and this other one is in connection with accreditation. So it's important to have in mind this set of standards, because this is the first level of credibility for the application of the carbon footprint. Because if we use the same standards for the quantification of carbon footprint, for the verification and for accreditation, it means that we may have a very reliable international system. But this is only for quantification. Then we have to move to the second step, that is in connection with the communication, because obviously the company want to communicate the result of their quantification. And after the quantification, the verification, so we need to move to a completely different context, that is the communication, where we have some potential weak point. Because if we leave the company alone to promote their activities through self-declaration, we also give them the risk for a possibility to not differentiate their serious commitment with other fake communication of company without any kind of serious quantification of the carbon footprint, for example. So there is a double risk in some way. In some way, there is a risk that the company may be recognized in terms of greenwashing, and this nullify completely the work done, but also may cause an image damage for the company. So there is a double risk in some way. For this reason, ISO developed another standard, that is ISO 14026. And this is dedicated for the communication of footprint information. You know that the set of standard for communication at the ISO level is broader. We have ISO 40001, 4004, 4020, 4021, 24, and 25. And this is the last standard that was being published a couple of years ago. And on the basis of this standard, we may recognize program operators developed in different countries. We have some example here. We have UK, Taiwan, Korea, Thailand, and Italy, but there are really several program operators operating in different countries. And the first one started to operate in 2008. So now we go to introduce Carbon Footprint Italy. This is the Italian program operator that is dedicated to the communication of the quantification and reduction of GHG emission of product and organization. And we believe that this program has four main characteristics. Is guaranteed, is credible, is effective, and transparent. And this because we have, for example, we accept only company that has been verified by an accredited verification body. So a company, organization, in the case of 14,064 part 1, sorry, or a product according to ISO 40,067, in both cases, we need to have a verification statement issued by an accredited verification body. And this is the first level that want to give an assurance to the markets that the number, the quantification number, is reliable. And then we have different versions of carbon footprint label, carbon footprint Italy labels. So you will see here the different approach available on the market, and then we will explain later more in detail the different labels. But each communication is also promoted together with a QR code. So all the time that you see the CFI label, you will find also a QR code. A QR code is very important because it's the way to connect the label to the background information. because obviously the label is only a representation of the commitment of the company, but we need to be transparent with the communication of all the information that are behind this number. So we start with the product, and the first label is a carbon footprint Italy dedicated to ISO 14067, and obviously here we consider the emission during the entire life cycle of the product. And with a QR code, you may go straight to the page of the dedicated page of the specific product. This is the case of Chiesi Farmaceutici, where you will have a lot of background information from the company side, the certification body, the kind of product, the split of the different emission, and the technical information supporting the CFP. A second kind of label is the one dedicated to the organization, according to 14,064 Part 1. And also in this case, obviously supported by a third-party verification. And the QR code in this case addressed to the different page, so the structure is similar to the one dedicated to the product, but obviously you have a different detail in terms of information. For example, here you may see there is a differentiation between the different categories. You know that the last revision of 14,064 Part 1 expanded the classification of the emission from the 3 scope 1, 2, and 3 to 6 categories. And for this reason, we split in 2 different kinds of communication. In this part here, you have the emission in connection with the 64 Part 1 new version. But in the last part, on the right side here, this information is in connection with scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And this is very useful for the company that, for example, decided to be part of the Science-Based Target Initiative. And maybe, probably later, Niccolo will explain something in connection with the money group. So you see the similar approach in terms of general information, the company name, the certification, the description of the organization in this case, and the more technical detail, and the split of the emission here. I will say something more about this part here later, the reduction targets and the blockchain. Recently, we developed a new label, it's carbon neutrality label, that is in connection with the PAS 2060. Probably you know that at this moment is under development a new ISO standard, is ISO 14068, dedicated to the carbon neutrality. But at this moment, the only international reference available is the PAS 2060. So we decided to follow this requirement, and for a company it's possible to claim their commitment in direction of carbon neutrality, showing the specific mitigation action and the offsetting on the residual emission. And finally, we have also the carbon reduction that is in connection with the carbon performance tracking approach that is required by ISO 14067, but also in accordance with ISO 14064 Part 1. And this label is dedicated to the company that want to show an improvement in terms of performance. So for example, a company that develop a new product, the product B, for example, that has a better performance in terms of carbon footprint of the product A. So the comparison between B and A allowed to show the reduction between the old and the new product. And the company may use this label on the product showing the improved performance, for example. But the same is also possible in connection with the company. Company may, for example, introduce a new modality to produce energy, renewable energy, for example. And when they are able to show this improved performance, they may have this kind of this specific label. Obviously, all the information describing the mitigation action will be described will be contained in the dedicated page of the product and organization. And before, I also anticipated the approach of blockchain. We believe this is very important because it's a way to give credibility to the program. And we are the first program at the international level that decide to implement, to adopt the blockchain method technology, because we believe that's a serious path in direction of decarbonization. Means that all the information needs to remain frozen during the year. So when a company participates to the registry, to our registry, with information of the baseline year, this number will be frozen via blockchain. And the link in blockchain is in the page that I showed you before. For example, I go back one moment. This is the blockchain link of Chiesi Pharmaceutici, for example. And this other one is the blockchain of two different GAG inventory of money group. For example, this is interesting because you see that the number in connection to 2019 and the number in connection to 2020. And when we'll be in 2025, for example, this number will be still here frozen because they are connected with the blockchain. So we believe it's a very, very important way to give credibility on our program, but not only even in the duration of the commitment of the company that decide to be part of our registry. And finally, in conclusion, it's also important to underline that Carbon Footprint Italy is part of an international network. It's Carbon Footprint International. It's a network of program operators that we have different approaches at the moment for the communication of the footprint, but at the same time, we decided to work together with some program, establishing MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. And this is the first step in direction of the potential multilateral recognition between the different programs. So this is my short presentation, introductory presentation of the Carbon Footprint Italy program. And now I have the pleasure to introduce Andrea Volpato. As mentioned before, Andrea is the head of corporate health and safety and environment in Chiesi Pharmaceutici. He has long experience in environmental area, but is also a person that was being involved from the beginning in the implementation of the carbon footprint product at the Chiesi level. So, Andrea, please, the floor is yours for your presentation.
First of all, it's my pleasure to be here today to present on behalf of Chiesi on carbon footprint of our product. There are three key messages that I want to share with you. The first is why this study is in line with the Chiesi vision about carbon neutrality. The second is why the implementation of the systematic approach for carbon footprint calculation was so important for us and is so important for us, and how we use the carbon footprint analysis. I will start by introducing you the Chiesi group. Chiesi is an international research-focused pharmaceutical group, and it's focusing two important targets: the health of our patient, of course, and health of the planet. And we think that these two aspects are strongly interconnected. Since 2019, Chiesi is also the largest global pharma to be awarded as a B Corp company.
Andrea, sorry, we are still saying your first slide, the cover slide. Are you moving?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. We are in Since 2019, I was saying we are a B Corp company founded on the concept of share value, which includes generating value. Chiesi has the capability, the resources, and the skill to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goal defined by United Nations and following the United Nations agenda of for 2030. As a proof of this commitment, Chiesi set itself the challenge to become carbon neutral by 2035. This is our strategy for carbon neutrality that includes avoidance, reduction, substitution, and offsetting of all unavoidable emission. So we are going to offset only what we cannot reduce. This is the step of our strategy. We started with the measurement and with a complete inventory of our emission. Then we set the reduction target. And by the way, this reduction strategy was submitted to the Science-Based Target Initiative. We, of course, we are going to offset all the emission that we cannot reduce, that we cannot have a reduction. And last step, to add transparent to our path, Chiesi is also working in accordance with the standard PIS 2060, and we want to be verified by a third party body. But let's have a look on our target, or better, the target that we share with the Science-Based Target Initiative. We have a target for scope 1 and 2 to reduce our emission at least 50% by 2030. And also our target is to have a reduction of 90% of our scope 3 emission by 2035. Chiesi has submitted this target to the Science-Based Target Initiative, and we obtained validation at the end of April of the last year. Another important aspect is that we need to be transparent. First of all, because the byproducts in the pharma industry have an important impact in the climate issue. Only few kinds of propellant are approved from the authorities. And at the moment, the only two approved have a very high GWP factor. And for this reason, there is an increasing interest about our stakeholder, for instance, the English NHS, and that asked us to demonstrate our strategy about the reduction of the emission of our products. And this year, we submit our strategy to CDP, to the Carbon Disclosure Project. And you know that in this report, the section about the carbon footprint of the product take a very important role. The company has chosen to develop a systematic approach based on ISO 40067 and in accordance to the NHS UK guideline on pharmaceutical product and medical device. The part we introduce, so we calculate our emission, our carbon footprint emission, by using the so-called systematic approach to create a systematic way to calculate the emission of our product, of all our products. In 2019, Chiesi obtained the third-party certification in accordance to ISO 40067, and also the review from a Carbon Trust about the used method. Why is so important the systematic approach? Firstly, because it is a way to calculate the carbon footprint of our current product, of the product that we currently manufacture, and to provide information to our stakeholders. But it's very important also because with this systematic approach, we develop a tool to calculate also the possible impact of our product in the future. This is of a paramount for a research-driven company like Chiesi to have a strong vision of the future. These are some data about our products. On the left, you can see the data of our product compared to the UN, the United Nations Assessment Report of 2018. So the gray boxes are, of course, the Chiesi product, and the white one are what is reported, the average of what is reported by the United Nations. On the right, you can see the carbon footprint of our product per dose. So the left is for actuation, for puff. Considering that the puff is half a dose, of course, the second table is for 2 puff. And this table compare our product, the carbon footprint of our product, with what is reported by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, the NICE, because NICE in 2019 provide to the physician and patient this kind of tool to inform them about all the impact that can have a product during the life cycle. You can see that for both the diagram, the Chiesi products are lower or in the lower range compared with what reported in the publication. And last but not least, the value of the carbon footprint of one product, in particular the Foster, is also registered in the Carbon Footprint Italy. So let's have a look in the diagram representing the carbon footprint of our product from the upstream to the manufacturing to the downstream phases. First of all, you can see that the biggest contribution of the carbon footprint of our product is on the usage phase, because as I told you that our propellant, our current propellant, the HFA 134A, has an important GWP value. So the question is how we can optimize our the carbon footprint of our product. And I want to show you two examples of what we did in the last time to reduce our carbon footprint. The first part that we decide to work is on the manufacturing phase, because during the manufacturing phase there is a test called SPY test that is required by a regulatory body for each product. So we have a 100% test made for all our products, and this means at least 4 tons of CO2, of HFA 134 emission per year, times 1.5 kilos, that is the GWP of HFA 134, is easy to understand that is an important impact. So to reduce the impact of the SPY phase, we have installed an abatement system which capture and condensate the propellant release in this phase. And this was an important result that we obtained from this analysis. The second is easy to understand, was about the use of the current propellant. So our idea was to move to a propellant with a low GWP value. This is not easy. It's not easy because to change a product in a pharmaceutical, to change a raw material in a pharmaceutical product is not an easy task. We must firstly study the toxicological aspect of the new product. And after, we have to prove to the authority the effectiveness of the new medicine. And roughly this kind of test take from 8 to 10 years. So take a lot of time. But at the end, we succeed. At least we present to the authority our data about toxicological and equivalence of our product. And we are ready to put in the market the new product by 2025. And Chiesi will be the first pharmaceutical company making this kind of important change. This means to reduce the emission in terms of CO2 equivalent of 90% comparing to the current products. So the conclusion that I want to share with you is that we see that Chiesi is aligned with its value. So the commitment on sustainability innovation, the commitment to be recognized as an innovative and research-based company, and the third, and very important, the commitment to have patient and environment at the center of our strategy. And this is all from my side.
Thank you, Andrea. It's very interesting what Chiesi Farmaceutici, have done in these years and what is planned to do for the future. It's really impressive to see 90% of reduction in the climate change impact for a product. It's also very interesting to realize that all these paths start from the quantification, the carbon footprint, because you need to identify which are the most critical phases. So thanks for the moment to Andrea. And now we move to the second presentation of Niccolò Alberti. He's energy and sustainability specialist in Mani Group. And with Niccolò, we changed completely direction, staying within the same room, because the approach of Mani Group was in direction of the organization. So please, Niccolò, if you want to explain your experience, thanks for the moment.
Yes, thank you very much, Daniele, and thank you for the invitation to attend at this webinar. I'm really proud to be here. And yeah, I'm Niccolò Alberti. I work in Mani Group as a sustainability specialist. And in the last years, we work together to put on an important decarbonization program that I will be explaining to you today. So first of all, I want you to know who is Mani Group. It's a multinational company based in Verona, in northern Italy, which basically provides goods and products for the off-site dry constructions based on the usage of steel. So Mani Group is related to the usage, firstly, of steel. It's divided into three different business units. The first one is the steel business unit, that is the most ancient, and which from which all the activities developed. And Isopan is the company composing the second business unit, which is the insulating panels business unit. And the third one is the renewable energy and services BU, which is basically composed by Mani Energy, that is the company in which I'm working in actually. Starting from the business unit steel, there is the society called Mani Cypre, which is the first company based and from which, as I told you before, all the group has been developed in the next years. It provides services of pre-processed steel elements for the heavy metal structures. Then we have also Mani Inox, which is really little if compared to Mani Cypre, and it provides once again services of pre-processed steel but in this case for stainless steel, for the usage of stainless steel. And then the third one is Mani Green Tech, which now provides structure, but by the usage of light steel frame. And so in the same business unit, that is the business unit steel, we have both a company for the structure for the heavy metal structure, which is Manni-Sipre, and even one for the light steel structure that is Manni-Greentech. Now we can provide the structure of the building. We need to put an envelope on it, and that's why there is the business unit related to insulation, which is composed by the Isopan industries that are 6 different societies with 7 total production plants based in Italy, Germany, Romania, Spain, Russia, and Mexico, and is the second worldwide producer of insulating sandwich panels. Then the third company is the business unit for services and renewable energies, which is composed by Manni Energy, as some other companies, but with a commercial aim. And Manni Energy works for the EPC, engineering, procurement, and construction for the renewable energies power plants, works for the energy efficiency, and with an innovative platform named Matrix, provides services of building management systems and for the IoT of the buildings. Here you can see in a map where we are located all over the world. And before starting our path, our journey into the decarbonization strategy, I want you to focus on this number, which has been published during in our last sustainability report. And so we are working into 72 countries. We served 72 countries during 2020 with a total turnover more than 530 million euros. But the most important number that we are going to use into this speech are the 400,000 tons of steel purchased during 2020. You can see it here down in the lower part of the screen. This is a really important number, and in a normal year, it goes higher than 400,000 tons of steel. It goes around 440, 450 thousand tons of steel purchased and utilized by our activities. Our path, our journey starts in 2015 during the Paris Agreement, during COP21, which I think everyone here knows about it, so I will be really fast on it. And during this convention, Manni Group starts asking, okay, these are the Paris Agreement. What can we do to give our commitment, to give our help to reach the target and the goals that human mankind took into this important convention? And so during 2016, we started with our first GHG inventory based on the ISO 14064, part 1, which during that year asked and was mandatory only the enumeration, the evaluation for scope 1 or direct emission and scope 2 indirect emission from energy consumption. We, for the moment, do not took into consideration the scope 3 or the indirect emission, and we obtained an inventory for an amount of 2,400 tons of equivalent CO2 for the year 2016. During this year, we also took a target, a commitment, which was to reduce by 15% the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions from our activities. All the information were published into our first sustainability report during 2017. And starting from that moment, the journey will become really faster. And that's because during the next year, 2018, we commit ourselves under the the assurance of the assessment by the Science Based Target Initiative, which is an initiative who wants to certify that the commitment and the target taken by the organizations are in line to the Paris Agreement. And it's an initiative born by WWF, the UN Global Compact, the World Resource Institute, and the Carbon Disclosure Project. During the next year, 2019, the ISO 1464 has been renewed, and so the categories changed their name. The categories of emission changed their name from scope to categories, as we saw before when Daniele directly presented the Carbon Footprint Italy site. And so during this change, we took our amount. We can took the amount of emissions from, the amount of steel I told you before, which we can say for 1 ton of steel, there is a carbon emission factor, which is, it amounts for something like 2 tons of equivalent CO2 for 1 tons of steel produced. So if we apply this emission factor to the amount of 400,000 tons of steel we purchased into 2020, we immediately can see that the amount of tons from this kind of activity, which is the production only for steel, goes up to 800,000 tons of CO2 emitted. That is really, really higher if compared to the 7,000 tons from our direct activities, so for scope 1 and scope 2. Now, we saw that there was a problem. We were looking at only at the top of the iceberg, as we can say. And so our GHG inventory, we need to, first of all, complete our GHG inventory and to become aware about the impact of our supply chain. Even because we do not only purchase steel, but even also chemicals and also a big amount of mineral wool. These two elements are in usage for the insulation, for the insulating sector, for the production of the sandwich panels. And so the categories we took into consideration are category 3, which is basically for the transportation of goods, and the category 4 that, as you now know, is the most important and the most impactive for our activities. Category 4 is about the emissions from the production of goods and services, but for goods in this case, purchased and used by the organization. Category 5 is related to the usage of the products sold by the organization. So we basically provide elements for construction. So we do not have relevant emissions from these activities. And the result was really impressive. As you can see here, the emissions we were taking into consideration first during 2016, 2017 were less than 1% of the total amount of our impacts on the global warming. And that became immediately aware. We became immediately aware about our strategy, that our strategy was focused, as we will see later, on the energy efficiency and renewable energies on our plants was not enough to do something. And so it became clear the necessity to work with our supplier. The results of this, of all our GHG inventory has been published not only on the sustainability report, but even starting from 2019, as you saw before, even on the carbon, by the help of Carbon Footprint Italy, by the program operator CFI. And that's something I'm happy about it, because I've never saw before today the slide for the presentation from Daniele, but I see that we are on the same way, we think in the same way about carbon footprint Italy. So that's mainly the reason why we choose this this program operator that is norm-based, is based on the recognized norm, so it's really solid. It's transparent, but not only transparent, even complete and accurate. It gives us the possibility to provide information not only by the ISO 14064, but even for the GHG protocol, which is important for us that we applied our strategies and reduction target to the Science-Based Target Initiative commitment. Is accessible, so all our stakeholders can easily access to the data and information of our inventory, not only on the site, but even by the QR code. And it is solid even for the usage of the blockchain technology. And then it is shared, so we are part of the representative bodies of parties, and at the moment we are part of, and we take really a high number of logos and program. We take part in different programs, but this is the only in which we can share our experience to help developing the program and get it better day by day. And so this is something really important even for us. Now I go on telling you, now we are aware of where the impact occurs. We need to build up a strategy, and that's what we performed in our company with a high participated process, during which we involved and shared the information with all the main function head of functions inside of the company. The program we build up goes on category 1 and 2 emissions. So for the categories we are directly responsible with some activities of energy efficiency. So the goal is to reduce our energy consumption and to provide energies directly from the usage of power plants in our production plants. And first of all, this was the plan for Italy, and now that was the base for the reduction of 15%. And now we planned to do the same on all the other plants in outside of Italy, so in Europe, Russia, and Mexico. And then once again, as also Chiesi told before, for all the emissions we do not cover by the passage to renewable energies, from gas to renewable energy and electricity photovoltaic power plants, it will be offset by by financing some developing program around the world. And then that is the biggest part and the biggest effort we need to do in the next years, and we already started since last one, is to work on the logistic and to be more efficient in our transportation of goods, and to take into consideration the intermodality of transport. So not only to transport on the streets, but even by the cargos, but even on rails and by shipment. And the last one, which is the last but is the most important thing, is to select and to collaborate with our supplier to help them on the reduction of their impact on the global warming. Actually, we are asking them in a really deep way all the information they have about their impact and so their global warming potential. And that's why it is really important for us to find out that our supplier has this kind of information. So CFP, it's really important for us to better know about the impact from our supply chain. Then we are going to work with them, sharing with them not only our experience, but even technologies and strategies we put together. And that's why Money Energy actually works with renewable energies, providing energy efficiency solutions and renewable energy solution. And then at the end, we will select from who goes on to sorry, it became a message saying that now participant can see my presentation. It is from the beginning, or you
no,
no,
it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so and the last part of this three-step program is to select. If you have done enough, you will go on to be our supplier. If it's not enough, and you will not be our supplier, that's easy. But we want to reach this goal with our supplier. It's not something. This goal is we can only reach with a participation of all the parties, and that's how we renew our goals, and our scope 1 and 2 became from 15% to 40% by 2028 from a 2016 base year. And for scope 3, for the business unit steel, is the reduction goes to 18% per ton of steel sold by 2028 from a 2019 base year. And for the insulation business unit, it is 20% per cubic meter of insulating panels produced. And that's how Money Group became one of the first 10 companies in Italy to have a science-based target of emission reduction. That's all for me. Thank you once again for your kind attention, and I'm available for any further necessities. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicola. Very interesting your presentation. It's also funny that you had the same kind of interpretation of the potential add value of carbon footprint Italy. But also I like to underline that we saw in two presentations, Chiesi Farmaceutici and Money Group, we saw the credibility and the serious approach in direction of decarbonization. And this is what is important. We are not speaking about greenwashing. We are speaking about a serious commitment in direction of the challenge of the climate change. This is exactly the kind of cooperation that we like to have as Carbon Footprint Italy. You also underlined the importance of to have the data available for the Science Based Target Initiative to show the progress year by year on the activity, on the initial commitment of the company. And one final important thing in my view is also the key roles of the suppliers, because this is a challenge where it's not possible to succeed alone. We need to work together. It's important that each company try to work with their own supplier to push them in the direction of a low carbon economy. So I think this is really an interesting point. Okay, now thank you also because you were very, very perfect in terms of time management. Now we plan to have a coffee break because we finished the first panelist is the Italian experience, Italian company explaining their participation to Carbon Footprint Italy. We'll have after the coffee break or tea break, we will have the two panelists describing the international cooperation between Carbon Footprint Italy and other programs. And so if you don't mind, we may reconvene in 50 minutes from now. Is 3 p.m. 20 minutes in CEST European Central Time. And so we start again in 15 minutes. Okay, we start again after the coffee or the tea. I'd like to check if Juan Duran is on the desk. Yes, okay, Juan, I'm seeing you. So as anticipated before, now we have the second session that is in connection with the international cooperation between Carbon Footprint Italy and other program operator. We start with Eco-Registry. Eco-Registry is an important program based on Colombia, but is operating also in other South American countries. For sure, Juan will present and introduce later the more in detail the company. It's a pleasure to have Juan with us, also because Eco-Registry is part of the Climate Change Coalition, together with Equilibria and other companies that believe on the blockchain as a methodology, as technology to support the climate transition. So Juan, I'm very happy to have you here, and the floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody that is listening to us today. And I'm very thrilled to be here, and thank you for this invitation to Equilibria and Carbon Footprint Italy. Because for us, it's a very good achievement to have these alliances. And as I will show you around the presentation, we give a lot of focus on the SDG 17, that is partnership to achieve all these goals. What I'm going to, yes.
I'm sorry, we are seeing your desk presentation mode with more slides on the screen.
Ah, okay.
I don't know if you want to change the setting.
Let me see. Is it correct now?
Now it's perfect. Thank you.
So actually what we're going to see is I'm going to explain to you what Eco-Registry does and how we use technology at the service of sustainability. And actually we have an ambitious goal, actually eliminating 51 billion tons a year is something that we took from the book of Bill Gates, but actually the goals are very different. Like this in 2015, we already know about that, and the goals for 2030. So I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but we do understand that the importance of the Sustainable Development Goals, and we believe in giving some step forwards, especially in these three. Partnerships are key to achieve all these goals that we have: climate action and industry, innovation and infrastructure. That those are the three that move us. It means that those are the ones that we use to help all the other, or to achieve the goals in all the Sustainable Development Goals. We launched Eco-Registry about 2 years ago in 2019 in Colombia. That's a picture with the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development at the moment was there on our presentation, on our launching date. It's very important for us, and I'm going to explain a little bit our road, how we came to be and why we started. This is a little bit representation of the carbon market in Colombia that was stated after the carbon tax. And actually what this picture tries to explain is that there is a carbon tax, and the carbon tax, it's about, right now, it's about this value, $4.65 per ton of CO2. That accounts actually per gallon. If we are going to measure the consumption of fuel in gallons, around 4.3 cents per gallon. I believe that's doesn't sound too much, but we will do some calculations at the end and see the importance of this tax. And this carbon, this means that the Colombian government gave every Colombian actually the opportunity to not to pay the carbon tax when they present carbon offsets instead. And the same amount of carbon offsets that they are going to use on their fuel consumption, we have to present them, and then we don't pay the carbon tax. What does it mean? That we have a ceiling value for buying and selling the carbon offsets around this value. It means that the market moves around 3.8 and 4.1 US dollars per ton of CO2. Accounts for a little, if you count that in gallon for savings, it's just 0.6 cents per gallon. But it's very important if you see, for example, a transportation company or a transportation company or an aviation company or a company that has a very big fuel consumption. This value is 5 million. Actually, I missed a zero here. 5 million gallons of diesel. If this company has this consumption, that will mean in a year around 48,000 of tons of CO2. But if this company buys these carbon offsets to account for the carbon tax, and for them, it will represent a savings for 34,000 US dollars per year. It's very interesting because these companies are seeing that as savings in money, but we are perceiving them as carbon offsets and a new push to the market of these initiatives that reduce carbon also, that reduce carbon or capture carbon in Colombia. The problem was at that moment that the demand was so high and the supply was very little. We started thinking about, okay, what can we do to change that and to see if we can grow supply so that we can see if there are more initiatives doing the reduction and the emissions reduction. So what can we do to bring more initiatives to come into the pipeline and develop projects? That's when we started, and we started analyzing the different barriers that we identified. At that moment, the carbon, let's say the carbon offset programs or standards were very complex. The registry systems were very complex and were not adapted to the Colombian context. We saw high transactional costs in the process of validation, verification, certification, registration, transfer, redemption, retirement certificates. Everything was very they had very high costs. So then meant for us, okay, we want to reduce costs, reduce complexity, and reduce also security breaches, because we saw that in other registry systems, there was a lot of manually operations, so that could not account exactly and avoid double accounting or double issuance or double usage of the credits. And that was very important for us. And it was very important for us, or it has been always very important for us, because we see credit fraud, for example, in these two headlines that we have here is the emissions trading system in Europe, I believe. And we also saw in other markets that there were tax evasion, security frauds, and money laundering through credit or carbon offsets. So actually, that's why we started developing eco-registry, and eco-registry would mean that we need to apply these 5 concepts, and it's security, traceability, transparency, automation, and friendly user. Why is that? Security in the name of, okay, we are going to withhold to hold these credits and do the accounting for country or many countries or many standards, for example, and we have to do it well. We have to do it with a traceable, that means, and that's actually the reason why we use blockchain technology, to be able to trace every carbon offset that is generated from the generation to the end consumer and the end beneficiary of that carbon units. Transparency, so that we have all the information available on our website about the project, where the credits come from and how they are quantified, and automation process, because one thing that we are working especially with Equilibria is, for example, that we are connecting both platforms that they are connected automatically without human interface, so that actually we can account that the accounting of the carbon offsets is done correctly, and it's done, how I call it, in a machine-to-machine basis, and they don't make errors. And friendly user, it has to be the platform always, and that's actually the platform we developed was, okay, we need these projects and as many projects as possible to bring here to the certification phase and generate those credits. So that's actually why we started, and in each step of the process, they have to upload all the documentation, and when the validation is done, we save, I call it a hash, or I call it a stamp of all the documentation on our blockchain database, so that nobody can change or modify those documents, and those documents will always support that validation step. And then afterwards, we do the same thing in the verification step, so that the documentation always stays there and nobody can change it, so that there is enough information to support that verification step. And at the end, the certification step. And when the certification step by the standard, we generate, for example, 100 tons of CO2. And then when we generate those 100 tons of CO2, we actually generate in a blockchain database on our registry system those 100 tokens of CO2. And those tokens of CO2 can be transferred to other accounts, can be transferred, for example, right now to the Equilibrium registry or Carbon Footprint Italy registry, can be transferred to other registries, as we will see later on. But the important step is the retirement of the certificates. That's when we state the end beneficiary of this carbon offset. And that's very important for us, because that's when we can trace all the information that was sent. And for example, from these 100 credits, 10 are accounted to a specific company that is going to account them to be a B Corp, or to use to use the compensation for the scope 1 or scope 2 in the GHG protocol, or according to the ISO or anything. Actually, and we work together with Srl-Carbono. Srl-Carbono is a standard, a voluntary standard that was created in Colombia, but also is expanding through Latin America and also other countries in the future, as well in Europe. And Srl-Carbono and Climate Registry will work together, and they also comply, as Daniele presented us in his presentation, with the ISO standards that are required to develop these carbon offsets. For example, the 14064 and 14065, they are very important, and other standards, international standards, that are accepted, so that the carbon offsets are valid for national and international markets. So from our functionalities perspective as a registry system, we do everything that you can self-manage your transfers, your retirements. We automate all processes, unit serializations, for example, by vintage. It's very important that the year of the reduction is in the serial number of the credit. The units are we have a way to visualize if the units are available for this market, for example, for the Colombian market, for the aviation market in Corsia, for example, or for voluntary purposes in Europe, in the US, or in other countries. And that's actually very important for us, including also the corresponding adjustments that is being discussed right now together with the Article 6. And we do an automated report so that everybody can see what happens in the platform. And that's all being facilitated because we use this blockchain technology together with this web-based implementation that can help us have all the traceability. And we believe that climate change is done through technology as well. And there are many technologies that will help us. And as I will show you later on in the presentation, there are some technologies very important, as the World Bank believes that, and we work together with Equilibria in the Climate Change Coalition. That's actually where we met. in the COP25. And that's important because it's not just us that believe that technology is key to develop these reductions. But here is an example of that. We are connecting ourselves to the climate warehouse from the World Bank, and that's being developed. That's very important because that's like a general accounting for the whole world, and it's important to be connected and to be connected live so that a transfer is done in both registries at the same time and is reflected on the other registry, or if a retirement is done, that it's reflected on other registries as well. We also are doing our steps, for example, in digitized verification reports. For example, this is one of the examples that we are testing in Colombia, and is to be able to quantify the biomass through a blockchain, through a drone's implementation of images analysis, and not we want to avoid the need of sending crews to the fields and quantify a lot of trees, for example, but we want to do it in a more automated way so that we can reduce, for example, as well the carbon footprint of those people that are going to go to the places where the trees need to be measured. And also we want to do this because if we achieve that, we can do it in, I don't know, monthly basis or every 2 months, every 3 months, and that's something that we can send more information to the people that are wanted to compensate their footprint. And that's actually how we're organizing ourselves right now. We're connecting. That's very important. The connections are very important. We are connecting to different platforms where people can go and buy credits, for example, for their retirement purposes. And we are working together with Carbon Footprint Italy and with Equilibria so that we can connect, and this connection should be automatically, so that once again, we don't do the accounting manually, but the accounting is done by machines. They don't make mistakes. And that's our presentation in the COP25. And right now, I wanted to show you as well that we have 56 public registered projects that accounts for around 25 million carbon offsets issued, and we have some quality seal about blockchain and how we use the blockchain technology. And as I mentioned before, our purpose is how to advance in monitoring, so how to implement new ways of monitoring, reporting, and verification through the different technologies like IoT, AI, big data, data analytics. Right now we have implemented, as you can see, blockchain and digital imaging and georeferential analysis as well, to see if projects overlap or if they overlap with their requirements or if they comply with the requirements, for example. And that's actually what I wanted to tell you about Eco-Registry. And if you are interested in getting to know us better, please follow us in Twitter or LinkedIn, or feel free to contact us under contacto@ecoregistry.io. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Juan, for your presentation. It's very interesting to see what is moving on in connection with the carbon markets, in connection with the blockchain. We know that in Italy we have a growing interest in terms of offsetting. A lot of companies want to offset the residual emission, want to achieve the carbon neutral targets. So there is a lot of discussion, but also there is a large discussion in terms of credibility of this certificate. And maybe several Italian colleagues here participating in this conference may give some experience of maybe low-level traders or low-level certificates. We believe that we need to go in another direction. So the transparency and reliability are keywords, and the blockchain is a tool, is a mechanism to allow a very full transparent approach. So thank you, Juan, for the moment. and obviously we will have more time for discussion later. But now I need to go to the last presentation. We have Hemi Holm, of the Executive Director of the TCR. We need to say thank you 2 or 3 times to Hemi, because she's taking the role of a colleague that is not in the possibility to participate to the this conference. But also thank you because we know that you are busy in California and you have very early wake this morning, I believe around 5 o'clock or earlier. So thanks really for your participation, very appreciated. And now the floor is yours for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I very much appreciate it. And I look forward to chatting with everybody and talking a little bit about the climate registries. Let me just share my screen here. Can everybody see that? Great.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. The Climate Registry is based in California. As Daniele said, we're based in Los Angeles, and we were established by actually US states and Canadian provinces in 2007 to continue the work of the California Climate Action Registry that was started in North America in 2004. So at that time, there was thought that there was going to be some type of climate legislation, national climate legislation, and other states wanted to join California in helping their entities and their jurisdictions become ready for carbon markets and cap and trade and other carbon legislation that might be happening. Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition at that time. Hopefully it will in the next couple of years, but there is still this general support of helping organizations to understand what their carbon footprint was, what their GHG inventory was, be able to measure and verify it accurately and on a comparable standards. The whole purpose of that MRV effort was measuring, reporting, and verification was to help these entities reduce their emissions in their footprint, in their operations. So besides our board of directors, we do have an advisory board that consists of many of these original states and provinces that joined us in 2007. We continue to support their efforts at state levels, and they continue to help guide us in terms of advancing our efforts across North America. So again, TCR's mission is to empower our generation to reduce its carbon footprint, and our vision is to make global warming history. And our context, it's what everybody here has been talking about, but obviously the global emissions trajectory is increasing at a very, very scary rate. And we very much believe that accurate, transparent, and GHG data empower cities, corporations, subnational jurisdictions, and countries to ratchet up ambition and deliver on action. And so the bread and butter of the Climate Registry is to help these organizations with getting accurate data so that they can make really good decisions and thoughtful decisions based on what happens when they make decisions within their operations to change things or add additional structures or any other type of activity, what that would do to their overall carbon footprint. And this is especially important as institutions are developing carbon neutrality or net zero goals to really be able to talk about if they are actually reaching those goals in a very transparent way. So again, the meat of what we do here at the Climate Registry is to build capacity in GHG measurement, reporting, and verification. Over the years, we've developed other activities that support support that effort and to support the galvanization of movement around developing accurate and transparent measurement, reporting, and verification programs. So one thing we do is we have a annual climate leadership conference that we have awards, and we recognize corporate leadership. That's called the Climate Leadership Conference, and we have run that program with the U.S. EPA for 10 years, except for the last 3 years, from 2017 to 2020. But we're happy to report that the U.S. EPA is back in partnership with that effort. We also attend the annual COP conference, and we will do so again this year for COP26. I look forward to connecting with any of you who are going to be at that international event as well. And what we do is we really support the North America climate leadership to attend that event. So we provide the credentialing and some financial support for travel for subnational leaders from the United States to attend the COP. And so this year we're expecting possibly 4 to 6 governors and their staff to go, and about 12 states to be represented at the COP. We are bipartisan in nature, and we do have a very wide-ranging geographical membership in terms of reporting members and also Council of Jurisdictions. So we're happy for each organization to come to the table at whatever level that they are operating at and starting with, and helping them on their journey. I would say one more thing is that besides the basic GHG carbon footprinting program that we started in 2007, we also developed new types of reporting tools and innovative programs, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. But for example, one thing that we're doing now, and we started this last year, is we're developing a net zero portal, and that will be a public website that will be searchable, and that organizations can go there and find out what other organizations throughout the world are doing in terms of their net zero or their carbon neutrality pledges, but more importantly, what the platforms, what their pathways are to get to those pledges. Because we really find that some of those pledges are, they're great that there's pledges, but there's not a lot of thought behind how to get to that net zero goal that the organization has. And so we do want to shine a spotlight to encourage that there's thoughtful thinking and planning for achieving those net zero goals. So as I said, our main activity at the Climate Registry is to help organizations build capacity in GHG measurement, reporting, and verification. And as such, TCR has developed 5 best practice reporting protocols, including the general reporting protocol suitable for all organizations, and sector-specific protocols such as electric power sector, oil and gas, and local government operations. And we also developed a water energy nexus registry protocol for our water energy nexus registry program. And this was a program that we developed for the state of California. It's still focused in California, but we're considering branching that out to other jurisdictions. It's a protocol that focuses on helping organizations determine the emissions from the water, from the GHG emissions used from the water that they are using in their operations. And so it's very focused on jurisdictions or entities that are in water challenged areas, such as the American West. But it is suitable for other organizations to use too. Basically, it allows an organization to come up with an emission factor for the water that they're using in their operations, much like there's an emission factor for utilities. We also develop guidance documents for calculating transit metrics and like I said, water, energy, GHG metrics as well. And we develop all of these programs through a public-facing stakeholder process. The Climate Registry is very much a convener from top down in terms of our jurisdictional support and our members, and as we develop like the net zero portal work or different guidance documents or protocols, these are all done in a very public facing way and with public input and guidance from experts in the field. So TCR's flagship reporting program provides low-cost, high-value training tools and support for GHG measurement, reporting, and verification. The goal is that this helps the entities to set targets, reduce emissions, save money, and raise ambition, and also to show to the rest of their colleagues, the rest of their staff or their colleagues or their sector or to their public, their customers, what they're doing in terms of their climate and environmental leadership. We have about 200 plus participating members right now, and they have ability to access our policy. We provide a verification program support that I'll go into in a little bit with more detail. We have an online reporting tool called CRIS, C-R-I-S, that allows entities to input information on their inventory. It prompts them for what is needed next, and then allows them to produce a published report that is a snapshot of what their inventory looks like. And we also have a help desk, and we have support and training for entities, either by phone or email. And we also conducted a number of webinars throughout the year for members and for the public sometimes. But we are able to provide a lot of support for companies as they start down the journey for figuring out what their carbon inventory is. I will say that what we've found over the years, now that we've been around for over a decade, is that our tools and our support is really useful for companies that are starting out on their journey. We do have some long-term members that have been reporting to us from the very beginning. Some of our larger members do end up being able to use our tools, and then they either develop their own tools in-house or have the capacity to do that, or use consultants if that's what they want to do. So it really depends on where the entity is in terms of how we help them. But it is something that we see that some of the, sometimes we see ourselves almost as an incubator for organizations as they start on their journey, but they may develop their own, like I said, tools and reporting style that they want to pursue on their own, which we're happy that they get to that level as well. But it is just something that we've noticed over time, and also as the field of support has expanded over the last 10 years, and that there's many more competing programs and consultants that can help with this type of work as well. So in terms of GHG verification, I think our program is really the gold standard. We do require that reports, GHG inventory reports from our members, are independently verified by a third party. We do have a whole verification program where we support these verifiers, the reporting process, the verification bodies. We actually do a rigorous review of the verified reports after the VB, the verification bodies, do their review, and before the report goes public on our website. we do also do a whole review of those reports, and we find out that about in 40% of the time there are errors in those reports. And so we do work with the verifier bodies and the members to correct those before they go public. And that is a huge value that we find from our members who go through the verification process, that we do provide that service for them so that they're not having something that's published and that's public out there that somebody else might identify as having not false information, but incorrect information or calculations in. So we have a very stringent program when it comes to verification. We do not require that companies, our members, verify to us every year. It can get to be an expensive process and certain a little bit of time intensity, especially after the first year of doing it, when the company's figuring out, where all their records are, and they're working with a VB for the first time. And so we try to support that effort. But again, in order for the information to go public on our website, it does have to be third-party verified. So we do have a verification protocol, and we also require that our verifiers are accredited, must be ISO accredited to ISO 14065, and the verifiers must use our general verification protocol, which is also based on ISO standards. Our accreditation body is ANAB, the ANSI, the National Accreditation Boards. So that is another stipulation that we have for our program. So this is just an example. Like I said before, I will kind of skim over this additional registry that we created for the state of California. So being a fairly small and nimble organization, we can create these specific guidances and programs for different sectors. And we really we found over the years that this is really a way that we can expand on our main MRV program by providing these sector-specific resources that help sectors dig deeper into their specific areas and some data that they want to get at, which they might not be able to access through our main GRP, General Reporting Protocol. And so we are able to provide these kind of programs. And as such, we also have developed a number of technical services that we also provide to customers and clients. And so based on our years of having this, all this experience in MRV, we do provide a lot of technical support on contracts and other works that are, like I said, outside of our existing programs, but we're able to support other efforts in terms of MRP and GHG reporting and reductions. So another interesting thing that we do, and I'd be interested to hear if this is happening in other countries, but we do support our jurisdictions, so state level reporting, and also the jurisdictions in Canada. So for example, in California, there was an executive order that was issued by the Governor Jerry Brown a few years ago that required all state agencies to report to the Climate Registry. So right now we have 45 state agencies that report to the Climate Registry, and the impetus behind this this executive order was so the state of California could get its own house in order and have the state agencies help to meet the overall reduction goals for the state of California. So the state agencies have reduced their emissions by an average of 52% in the last 10 years. And so we also have developed other programs for other state agencies and government bodies, and they really vary depending on the jurisdiction. So we are able to develop very focused and tailored programs for these jurisdictions, depending on what they want to do in terms of achieving their climate goals. So in other words, we do support corporations, but we also support local governments and larger jurisdictions as well. Our program is pretty flexible in that regard, that we're not focusing on just one sector. We also find that recognizing the efforts of our members and the participants in our program is a really important thing to our members, especially the ones that are public facing, that they really appreciate and like and value the ability to say that they've achieved some type of level of recognition. And so we do find that is an important part of our program, and we built that into our MRV programs, that there is a so it's I like to say it's MRV plus R. There's a recognition component to what we're doing, and it does have a high value to our members. And I'll also explain here, it also ties into some of our other work, because with that recognition, these companies and entities are able to have pathways to other programs, such as participating at the UNFCCC or applying for the Climate Leadership Award. So if, for instance, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but for our Climate Leadership Award, we require that the companies have gone through a third-party verified program. Now, that may not be ours, but we do require that as a base. So that is a good lever in terms of moving the needle to encourage companies or entities to go through the verification process by having a carrot to encourage them to participate in those type of activities. So again, we do host a fairly large contingency of U.S. representatives to the Conference of Parties each year. We're expecting quite a few. There's a lot of interest this year from U.S. states. We don't know if they're all going to be able to attend, given the issue with finding hotel rooms, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to get as many of them there as possible. But we do usually host a number of governors and high-ranking state agency figures to attend, and we also cooperate with corporations, CEOs of our member corporations, as well as our Canadian partners too. And so I would like to talk a little bit talking about our MOU that the Climate Registry has with Carbon Footprint Italy. So this MOU was signed fairly recently. It was signed in the spring, or I think February of 2021. And so it is a new partnership. The purpose of the MOU is to foster cooperation between national carbon footprinting programs in order to increase the synergies in the public dissemination of an organization's carbon footprints at the international level, and to increase the consistency of the voluntary reporting program, along with developing and adopting common guidelines and practices. Another goal is to also establish a mutual recognition of the inventories carried out within each program. So we're excited to be in this partnership. I think we're just starting out on our journey, and I look forward to seeing where it goes and how we can expand on it. And I think there's many, many opportunities, and look forward to discussing those today and in the future. I did want to talk a little bit about what the partnership involves specifically. It is a basic level, partnership level, and each program commits to working together for the harmonization of the registration rules in each program. And one of the specific thing that is included is that each party accepts the use of mixed engagement between verification and agreed upon procedures as described in ISO 14064-3 for more transparent and reliable results on the verifications. And this MOU also allows us to develop further activity documents, collaborations, and projects between one or more programs to enhance the implementation of the purpose of this MOU. So, as I said, there's a lot of ways and directions that we can go, and I look forward to exploring those with everybody. So, this is where you can find me. Here's my email address, and we're on Twitter and LinkedIn and our website. So look forward to connecting with you the rest of this morning or this afternoon and in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I mean, very, very interesting. You started with underline the importance to work in a transparent way. It was a key word of your initial part of the presentation, and we fully agree with you. It was the same word used by Juan for the presentation for the carbon credit. So transparency is a key concept when we work in the connection of carbon management. But also you underline at the end our memorandum of understanding, and in particular the aspects in connection with the use of ISO standards. And again, it's the same point underlined by Juan, is a key point for Carbon Footprint Italy. So if we need to work together in the concept of cooperation to cope climate change, we need to work using common rules, and exactly to know that the carbon credits generated in Colombia is generated using 14,064 part 3 and 40,065 for accreditation, and the same standard are used in the Climate Registry in US, and the same is used in Italy. It means that we are working in the right direction. So this is already an important target of this conference. But now I hope that we have some questions or comments by the participants. So now we are in the question and answer part of our meeting, and I hope that somebody want to comment or to ask something in connection with the presentation of our panelists. It's always difficult to have the first question, we know. But I saw several experts that are part of this meeting. How is the reaction of the company in the US? I mean, at this moment, because we know that California is facing very strong impact on climate change the last couple of years. We saw tremendous fires, and so we had images that was really scaring in some way. And do you believe that this kind of impact in some way increased the awareness of the company and the commitment to work in direction of a low carbon economy?
Absolutely. We're seeing that the companies that already were active on climate and taking leadership, ramping up their activities and their ambitions and their goals. And then we are seeing a lot of interest from other companies dipping their toe in the water, so to speak, and figuring out their place in it. I think the issue that we hear from our members and stakeholders that we interact with, like for the Climate Leadership Conference, is the competing reporting program, where you know, these programs are being developed, and then it's like report to CDP and report here, and then report to US EPA, and then report to the state of California, and that type of over reporting and that burdensome reporting. And so I think where we can align, like we have with CFI, where there is alignment and the ability for one report to be fed into another is really helpful. For example, with CDP, if a member reports to us and they have a verified carbon footprint, they can also use that report as part of their CDP report, and they get additional points on the CDP report. So that's one way that these programs can be you know, specific in their goals, because CDP has a different goal than the Climate Registry does. I mean, the overall goal is the same, but they're working at they're leveraging another aspect. And so that's one thing where we can help the companies achieve their goals, but not make it so burdensome. We do see that where there can be great movement is when there is, of course, political leadership, whether it's at the national or subnational level. There was legislation in the California legislature this past year, and we expect it will come back in the 2022 legislature cycle. And it basically is requiring that all companies that are doing business in California with revenue over $1 billion per year must report their scope 1, 2, 3 emissions to the state of California and have them verified every year. And so this is like 8,700 companies. And it doesn't matter if the company doesn't have operations in California. I mean, doesn't have a physical operations. If they sell something in California, they would be under this legislation. It's still going through some iterations, and there's some problems with the way that the legislation is working. And we've been involved with that, and possibly having the state of California contract with us for these companies to do their reporting, because it would be very burdensome to the state of California to have to try to manage 8,700 companies on top of what they're managing in terms of their cap and trade program, the companies that report to them through that process. But one of the things, I think one of the things that will end up being dropped from that kind of legislation is reporting on scope 3, just because there's the accountability, the transparency, the methodology is not there. There's some aspects of scope 3 that are pretty easy to do, like employee commuting or employee travel, that you could mandate pretty easily for a company, but other aspects of scope 3 are not there. But I would just throw that out for everybody. I'd love to hear other people's view on scope 3, because that is something that we get a lot of requests about, how to incorporate scope 3, you know, what to incorporate from scope 3 accounting and how to do it, and especially around transportation, but it's a huge issue. There's a lot of research and efforts being done to try and get a handle on it, but I think it's very, very murky, and companies want to address that in their carbon footprint inventory, but they just don't have the accurate methodology to do that in all areas, or maybe which areas to focus on would be, and how to go about that. So I do think that's something that deserves a lot of attention in the next few years, and something that's very important to corporates.
Thank you. Maybe I have a later question about scope 3 for Nicolò, but for the moment I want to jump to Juan, because you mentioned, the political commitment that is a key aspects. And we realized that in Colombia, the decision to establish a carbon tax was the starting point of the experience of eco-registry in some way. We know that in Central America, Mexico, Costa Rica, there are already a lot of initiative, but a lot is also moving in South America. So we have the feeling that in Ecuador, Uruguay, for example, there are some movement. What is your feeling, Juan, in terms of the changing situation in South America?
Thank you, Daniele, and everyone. Yes, actually, the carbon tax in Colombia was a very big example for the Latin American countries, and the carbon tax was very important at the moment because it moved to the people to generate more initiatives, more emissions reductions initiatives in all sectors. It was very interesting, and we saw, and we started the process of the accounting. And when you start to account for the emissions and for the reductions, then you can set the goals and you can follow the goals. That's very important for a country. And I believe that other countries, like for example Mexico, they moved to an emissions trading system, and they are implementing it right now. I believe they already passed the test phase, and they are in the process of the implementation phase. That's another approach. That I don't know if that actually moved a lot of initiatives to generate emissions reduction, but I do understand that it moved for example, the energy sector to lower their emissions, and that's very important as well. In other countries like Central America, they are focusing on nature-based solutions and renewable energy generation. That's those are the projects that are being developed there. Not because of carbon tax, maybe, but different laws that are promoting this nature-based solution or the implementation of renewables. That's actually very interesting how they are implementing that in Central America. And in South America, you can see other countries like Peru, Ecuador, and Chile that are also in the way of implementing their carbon tax. Argentina has a carbon tax, but they don't have this possibility of compensation of the carbon tax. And they are working a lot on these projects. And Chile is, I believe, is the one that is working the most. Also, they are working in both parts, in the carbon tax and the emissions trading system a lot, and also in a renewable energy law. They are implementing a way of quantifying renewable energy through renewable energy certificates. That's also very important. And in Brazil, they are on the way of defining the laws that are going to account for the tax, carbon tax. I believe the movement in Latin America in general is very good, because we believe that there are a lot of opportunities for nature-based solutions, and the countries are moving towards generating more initiatives and to bring in these initiatives to life. That's very important.
Yes, thank you, Juan. You confirm that we are in the middle of a revolution, maybe only at the beginning of the revolution, but we feel that a lot of things is changing very quickly. Going back to Nicolò, you show us very well the change of approach between the old inventory based on scope 1, scope 2, and the new inventory, the updated inventory, including scope 3. And you also underlined that the main part of the emission is in connection with the steel. And so it means that to reduce this kind of emission, probably you need to wait for the green steel or the using hydrogen in the process. But in some way, is it frustrating for you to know that all the activity that you may perform at the plant level, on the logistic level, in some way is irrelevant in comparison with the content of CO2, the embedded CO2 in the steel?
Yeah. Personally talking, yes, it is frustrating because I am an engineer, so I would like to put my hands into the job and not to work on policies and to work on. But this is what it is needed. So we have just to keep on grinding on do our job. And so if we want to reach these goals, we have to do this kind of activities, and so we have to do to work on it. But as I told before, all of these target and goals have to be reached in a biggest way, in the most shared way, and so we need the help of everyone. We can't do everything, and this is something that for me is also really nice. There's no one that has the key. It's also something that is giving me hope. There's no one has the key of the results are not in the hand of a single person, but is in the hand of everyone. So this is something that can be reached if we want. Is not there is not a single person that can stop this phase of changing. Yes.
It is also completely in connection with the presentation of Juan when he presented the SDGs, and he mentioned that the collaboration is a key word. Otherwise, we don't have any chance to cope in an effective way with this problem. Do you want to add something?
No.
Okay. Going to Andrea. You didn't present the amount of investment behind the decision to change the propellant, but in reality, what is amazing is that this exercise with the carbon footprint promote the idea to change the propellant, and in some way becomes the target, the objective of the company in the next 5 years. So it's not one of the main object. It is the objective, it's the strategic objective for the company. In my view, this is also is amazing, because it shows that a company may change completely direction, not change the direction, but may find a direction consistent with the climate change activity that becomes the real strategy of the company. You want to add something in this direction?
Yes. What I can say is that we are a big company, and so the ethical part of our business is very important. We are looking for the share value that I mentioned before. So we invest a lot of money for this kind of project, more than 300 million euros only to have a new plant and all the studies related to the new product and so on. On the other side, there are some national health authorities that little by little is asking us to do more about this point. So it's important from the ethical point of view, but in the future, I think that it will be a need, because we know, for instance, that health is very connected with the climate, the environment. And so there is an ethical point of view, but at the same time, there is also a business point of
view. Yes, it is a confirmation that we are looking in the direction of win-win solution. The real critical point is to accept the idea that we have to change, and this is really where we find more resistance normally in our day-by-day experience. I don't know if the panelists has some question for other panelists or the participant. Somebody want to rise?
Daniele, sorry.
Okay, Giorgio, please.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Juan. First of all, thank you for your intervention. It was very interesting to understand the relationships also between digitalization and and sustainability projects at the end. Can you help us to understand how we can investigate more about the contribution of digitalization in the sustainability related improvement projects, if possible?
Hi, Giorgio. Thank you for your question. In which kind of projects? I didn't understand the last part.
Oh, in general, I'm referring to manufacturing process to industrial sectors.
Okay, that's yes. I would need to check that because there are a lot of ways in manufacturing projects to improve or to optimize the processes, especially when you do have a lot of consumption of energy, a big consumption of energy, and there are different ways. It depends on the way that you are generating this energy from, or I always say, okay, let's take a look about the sources. Where is the energy coming from? If it's coming from the network, or if it's coming from fuel consumption, or where that's actually mostly the more emissions that we get in manufacturing projects. And the second way is to optimize leakages, because there are also a lot of leakages normally in the manufacturing processes, leakages of CO2, I mean, of CO2 emissions. And to get those, I mean, confined, like they don't leak. That's very important. But actually, for each project, we would need to analyze each project and see how we can find solutions. What we do in Eco-Registry is that we are providing solutions to measure that automatically and to measure the reductions automatically. For example, there is a very interesting project that is led by a company called Climate Check in Canada, and they're doing interesting measurements, or like digitized MRV solutions for landfill and gas emissions reductions projects. That's very interesting, or also for manufacturing systems where there is a lot of consumption of energy, so that you can monitor everything online and you can actually mostly generate the carbon credits online. Those are interesting projects to have an example, but I could email them to you, and if you want to get deep on that topic, we can get on another meeting, I believe.
Thank you very much. Wow.
Thank you.
We have time for the last question. Who want to take the opportunity to ask something to the panelists after this very interesting presentation? Maybe we start to be tired after a few hours of presentation and the discussion. So if there is not other further question, I go in conclusion. I got to close this conference, and thank you everybody for the participation, and in particular the panelists for all this very interesting explanation of specific experience from the company perspective at the national level, and from program at the international level, or registered international level. You see that there are a lot of things that is changing, is moving very quickly, and we want to be part of this movement. They want to change in a transparent, reliable way, and we hope that other company in Italy will join this travel together with us in order to be part, as Juan mentioned before, of a cooperation between subjects that want to go in the right direction. So thank you everybody. And obviously this presentation is recorded, so we will circulate if you like to share in your social. Thank you, bye-bye.